Let me begin with a very simple question. Who here is active on social media? Not surprised by the number of hands we have today. Did you know the average time spent on social media is 2 hours and 30 minutes? Now, for some people, it might be less. For some people, it might be more. But I'm sure we can agree that more often than not, it's a waste of time. And it's made me wonder, has society always thrown time away like this? What did generations before us do? What did our grandparents do? Well, one thing's for sure. My Dadaji, Basant Lal Sharma, didn't have 2 hours and 30 minutes to throw away. If he did, I wouldn't be here. I have a very special memory of walking to primary school with my Dadaji. And those days were different. There was no streaming audio or smartphones. People would actually talk to each other on the morning commutes. And on that day, the weather was terrible, typical British weather. So I asked Dadaji, "Do you miss the weather back home in India?" And with a smirk on his face, he pointed out that actually, I spent more of my time growing up in what is now Pakistan than I did in what is India. Yes, my Dadaji survived the partition of India. And as a 10-year-old, I was sad. I was scared and horrified to hear this news. Because all I could think of, did this mean I have to start supporting Pakistan in the World Cup? My Dadaji would tease me about that point for the rest of the journey to school. He avoided telling me the full story of what happened. Perhaps he wanted to shield me from the darker details of his journey. He wanted his children and his grandchildren to focus on their goals in life, rather than having ill feelings and resentment. But the truth is, my Dadaji, along with millions of others, had to leave their homes overnight because of the partition of India. And as I grew older, Dadaji would slowly reveal the details of his journey. He would tell me that in the middle of the night, the village that he knew and loved, in between Rawalpindi and Lahore, suddenly turned into a war zone. He could hear gunshots, screams, shouting, and people crying. Because with little to no security, violent mobs were allowed to roam towns, villages, and cities, clearing the land of people who they felt shouldn't be there. And my Dadaji and his family, Hindus of Punjab, fell into that category because they stood their ground for generations before. So it was decided they could no longer live there. They had to give up their homes. And thanks to the split-second decision-making of my Dadaji, they found an escape route. But this escape route wasn't easy. It involved traveling in the dark of night, by foot, to a train station, which was helping people cross the border into India. Of course, Dadaji and his family, they didn't have the time to pick up their belongings or even their essentials. They had to come empty-handed and start from the beginning. Whenever Dadaji would tell me his story and share his perspective, he would always have a tear in his eyes. Yet somehow, he managed to find success. He managed to hold himself together. And that is something that has sat with me as I've grown older. I often have to remind myself when I'm in a difficult situation, look at what Dadaji had to deal with. And then I'm reminded that certain things he did, I should be doing in my life as well. Why? Because Dadaji could have taken the easy way. He could have remained where he was. He could have given up his ideals and values, but that would have been the ultimate failure. Instead, he chose to do what was right. He held on to his values. Second of all, he ensured he had a routine in his life. In the mornings, he would ensure he's had a healthy breakfast, go for his walk, take time to meditate. Nowadays, people use that time to browse social media on their phones. Whereas Dadaji saw the importance of using his time wisely instead of indulging in anything unnecessary, because he experienced what it might be like to not have the chance to do what is important. So I'll ask you again, did our grandparents have 2 hours and 30 minutes to waste? Are we living our lives to our full potential, or are we content with doing the bare minimum? Let's do something remarkable with our lives, and let's not waste time. Namaste.